Tulips, welcome back. We're going to be doing an activity today to see whether objects sink or float. So remember, sink means that they're going to go down to the bottom, and float means that they stay on top of the water. You guys could do the same experiment at home with any containers that you have. It doesn't have to be quite this size. I just picked a large one. It could be a smaller one. You could also do this in your sink by pulling up the stopper and filling it with water, or the same with your bathtub. You can use any objects you have lying around the house. I just happen to choose these. Also, just make sure, again, like I said before, that whatever object you're using does not have any kind of electricity or batteries in it because you will break it. So please don't throw like your TV remote or your iPhone or any iPad, anything like that in there, please. So what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you the prediction chart I made. You guys don't necessarily, I'm assuming, have a whiteboard at home. If you do, obviously that works great. But if not, you could just use a piece of paper and mommy and daddy could help you. So we've done these before in class. What we're going to do first is we're going to look at each object. And before I actually see whether it can sink or float, we're going to try to make a prediction. Okay, so I'm going to show you our first object. Our first object is this piece of cotton. Okay, it's a cotton ball. So what I want you guys to do is predict what you think. You tell me, do you think it's going to sink or is it going to float? Okay, so I'm going to make my prediction. I'm thinking, I think my cotton's pretty light. So I'm thinking, yeah, it's like a cloud, it's fluffy. I think it's gonna float, okay? So my prediction chart, I'm going to write float. Okay, so I think it's going to float. So now let's see what it really does, and then we'll write it on our other side. This is our prediction, which is our guess, and our conclusion means what happens. So I'm going to see what happens. Let's see. I put my cotton in, and uh-oh, it was floating, but uh-oh, look. Now it's sunk to the bottom. Why do you guys think that is? My cotton was floating, but then it sunk to the bottom. Well, I think I know what happened. My cotton ball filled with water. Look, I could squeeze all this water out. Okay, and it made it sink to the bottom. So it floated first and then it sunk. So I'm going to say this one sunk because it's not floating anymore. So we're going to go with sink for this. As you see, once it filled with water, it sunk right to the bottom. So I'm going to say our cotton sunk. And by the way, friends, I do have a towel under the table, and I purposely did this in my kitchen instead of on my carpet, so that way I didn't make a big mess. So you guys, if you can go outside, if you have an outside, you can do that, or you could do it someplace that has like tile. Just please don't do this on your carpet, and I have a towel on the floor to dry this stuff. So my conclusion was that our cotton sunk, right? Once it filled up with water, it sunk to the bottom. So my prediction was sort of right, but not really. But you know what? That's okay. That's the whole reason we test things out. We don't know until we test it. So my next thing is going to be a piece of plastic. Okay. This happens to be from the cookies I ate before. We're going to see what this plastic does. So you tell me, friends, do you think it's going to sink or is it going to float? Okay, I'm going to say float. Why not? Let's see. My prediction was wrong last time, so let's see if I'm right this time. I'm going to say it's going to float. So let's see. Look, it is floating. So my plastic is floating. Okay, we can tell it's floating because unlike our cotton ball, which went straight to the bottom, my plastic is staying on top of the water. Okay, see, it's kind of driving around like a boat. So my plastic is floating. So we could put float. So I was correct that time. What about you guys? What did you predict? Were you right? Okay, let's see the next one. Okay, my next object is a log. Okay, now this log actually happens to be a guinea pig toy, but this log is made out of wood. Okay, it's a branch from a tree. So I want you guys to predict. What do you think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Okay, I'm going to guess sink because we haven't guessed sink so far. So I'm going to say I think it's going to sink. So let's see. Let's see if our log floats or sinks. Oh, look, it's staying on top of the water. I don't know if you can really see on camera. Let me move it towards you, but our log is actually floating in the water. Okay, it's staying on top. Now, I'll tell you guys the truth. I knew it was going to float, but I'll tell you how I knew this. So this log is made of wood, okay? Wood always floats, okay? They make boats out of wood. There's a reason for it. It floats, okay? So boats are made out of wood a lot of times, and there's a reason for it, because wood floats, so this log happens to float. So our conclusion is that it floats, because it's wood. So we know it floats. Okay. Our next one is going to be this plastic cube. Okay. So what do you think? This is actually one of our things that we were measuring with and using for build stairs. What do you guys think? Is this going to sink or is it going to float? What's your prediction? Okay, mine, I'm going to say it floats. Let's see. So let's see if we're right. I guessed float. Let's see. So what do we think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Let's see. Oh, look. It's staying on top. It is floating. Okay. You could see my block staying on top of the water. So we could say it's floating. Okay. So our block is floating in the water. So we could say that it floats. So this block was made of plastic, okay? This was made of plastic, which, as we saw before, our other piece of plastic floated, right? So generally anything that basically is made of plastic is going to float, okay? So both my plastic block and my plastic cookie tray both floated because they're made of plastic, and plastic floats. Okay, so we just said about our plastic block floating, but what about the wooden block? What do you guys think about our wooden block? Do you think it's going to sink or is it going to float? Make your prediction. Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Okay, I'm going to say float. Let's see if it floats. Okay, so here's our wooden block now. We'll see if our wooden block sinks or floats. Oh, look at that. It's floating. Now, think about it, friends. Why do you think our wooden block is floating? Well, there's a reason for it. I said it's made out of wood, right? Our log was made out of wood, and we said wood always floats, right? That's why they make boats out of wood. So wood always floats. That's why I guessed float for this one, because we know anything that's made of wood is going to float. Just like if you remember in our story from this morning with the goat and the hen, they used a wooden barrel because they knew that wood was going to float. Okay, so wood always floats. This also happens to be another guinea pig toy. So this wooden block floated. And it also dyed my fingers yellow. Look at that, guys. Ooh, the paint came off. So our block floated because, again, it was made of wood. Now, let's test one of our other math toys. Here is our chip. Okay, this is one of our counting chips that we use for our pizza game. What do you guys think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? I'm going to guess sink just because I haven't guessed sink in a while. So let's see if I'm right. Let's see if you guys are right. Is this going to sink or is it going to float? What do you think? So let's see. Ooh, look at that. It's sinking, but it's also kind of floating to the top. And look, after it sunk, it stayed floating. Okay. I'll tell you why it's floating. Because it's plastic. Okay, it's a plastic chip. Remember we said plastic always floats. It sunk for a second, but then it popped right back up. Okay, so our plastic always is going to float, just like our plastic block and our plastic cookie tray. So this floated. So we could say our plastic chip floated. So our plastic chip floated. Okay. let's see about our next thing. The next thing I have is a bottle of nail polish, okay? This nail polish has a glass outside, okay? And it's full of nail polish. So keep that in mind. It's full of something. So what do you guys think? Our glass bottle with nail polish in it, is it going to sink or is it going to float? What do you think? I'm going to say float because glass, and I think glass floats. So I'm going to say float. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'm going to drop our nail polish in and let's see if it sinks or floats. Ooh, right to the bottom. That didn't even take a second. So it sunk, even though it was glass. And glass usually floats. Why do you guys think it sunk to the bottom, even if it's glass, and the top actually happens to be plastic? Why do you guys think it sunk to the bottom? Well, I can tell you why. It's full of nail polish, okay? Even though glass and plastic would float, it's full of nail polish. If you guys think about our story before about the barrel with the buttermilk in it, right? The barrel floated when it was empty, but when it had the buttermilk in it, it sunk right to the bottom, right? And the goat went right in the water. So when it's full, it's not able to float. If I dumped all this nail polish out, it probably would float. But right now, it's full, so it sunk. It sunk right to the bottom. So anything that's full like this sunks. Sunk right to the bottom. Okay. Now let's try our next thing. I'm going to try this rubber duck. What do you guys think? Is the rubber duck going to sink or is it going to float? What do you think? I say, let's look at the material he's made out of. He's made out of rubber. Okay. So what do you guys think? Is rubber going to float or is it going to sink? I'm going to say sink just because we haven't said sink in a while. We'll see. Because remember, our prediction is just a guess. We don't know. So let's see if my rubber duck sinks or floats. Look at that. What is he doing, guys? Is he sinking or floating? He's floating. And I'll tell you why. He's made of rubber. Rubber floats, okay? Rubber is the thing they make rafts and pool toys out of, okay? Because rubber happens to float, okay? So also, I'm sure you guys have played with rubber ducks before in the bathtub, or we actually have them on our water table for school, right? There's a reason we use them because they float, okay? If they sunk, they wouldn't make a very good bath toy or a very good water table toy. So they happen to float because, again, they're made of rubber and rubber floats really well. So let's look at our next thing. Make sure I squeeze all the water out. Okay. Our next thing we're going to look at is a quarter, okay? Our money. Now this money is not our toy one, it's metal. It's a real quarter. Okay. So what do you guys think about our metal quarter? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? I'm going to go sink. Okay, let's see if I'm right. Let's see about our metal quarter. I'm going to guess it's going to sink. So let's see if our prediction or our guess is right. Let's see if our quarter sinks or floats. Ooh, that didn't really take very long, did it? Let's see if you guys can see it. It sunk right to the bottom, okay? It is a metal quarter and it sunk straight down. So my answer for this one certainly is sink. It didn't even float for a second. This definitely sunk. So quarters sink for sure. Okay. So our metal quarter sunk right to the bottom. Now here's something interesting, guys. Ships can be made of metal too, and yet a ship floats. Okay. It depends on the shape. Okay, depends on the shape of the object. Obviously, a boat does not look like this, okay? A boat has a certain shape to it that allows it to float. So even though it's made of metal, it can still float. It depends on the shape of the item. So doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to sink automatically if it's metal, because boats are made of metal and they can float, but they definitely cannot be shaped like this. They have to be shaped a certain way in order to float. So let's test a different item. I have a toy Minion. What do you guys think about my Minion? Is he going to sink or is he going to float? I'm going to say float. Let's see if my prediction's right. So what do you guys predict? Do you think our minion's going to sink or is he going to float? Let's see. Oh, look, he's floating. Guess why, friends? What material do you think our minion is made out of? He's not made of metal or anything. He happens to be made of plastic. Okay, so our plastic minion is floating. Okay, now let's look at our key. Okay, we have a metal key. So what do you guys think? Is our metal key, well, I'll admit, guys, this is only half of the key because it broke in the door. But what do you think? Is our half a key going to sink or is it going to float? What's your prediction? I'm going to guess float. Let's see if it floats. Okay, let's see. What about our metal key? Does it sink or float? Ooh, right to the bottom. It's made of metal just like our quarter was, okay? And again, we said a lot of times metal sinks, okay? Unless it's a certain shape, which is shaped like a boat, right? This key is certainly not shaped like a boat at all. So it's not going to float, okay? It sunk right to the bottom. So our metal key sunk. Now let's look at, I only have a couple more things here. Okay, I have a bottle here. It's a plastic bottle, okay? So what do you think about my plastic bottle? But it is full of spray, okay? What do you think about this bottle? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? Remember, it's full of liquid. So what do you think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? I think I'm going to say sink. Okay, we said it was full of something. My nail polish sunk. So I'm going to say sink. Oh, hold on, I got to fix this. I wrote the wrong thing here. So I'm going to say my bottle. I'm going to say sink because my nail polish sunk too when it was full. So I'm going to say sink. So let's see. Let's see what this does. Ooh. Okay, it sunk, right? It went right down to the bottom. So yeah, this thing definitely sunk. Okay, it's sitting on the bottom, as we could see. So again, it's full, okay? Even though it's plastic and plastic floats, this is full of something, just like our barrel is full of buttermilk, it went straight to the bottom, just like our nail polish. So even though plastic does float, this is full, and it does not float. It definitely sinks. So our bottle sunk. Okay, now let's look at tips. I have a shape. What do you guys think about our shape? Here's our hexagon from class. What do you guys think about this hexagon? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? What's your prediction? I'm gonna say sink. Let's see if it sinks. Let's see if our hexagon sinks or floats. So again, what's your prediction? We'll see if it's right. Oh, look, it's floating. So now that I'm looking at my hexagon, it's made of plastic. Wow, lots of things seem to be made of plastic. So my hexagon floats, okay? So we're going to say that it floated. Again, it's made of plastic, so it floats. Oh, I realized there's one other thing I wanted to do. I don't have an auto prediction chart, but I do want to test one more thing. Let's look at our spoon. Okay, and I'll add it to our chart. What do you guys think? Is this spoon going to sink or is it going to float? So what do you guys think about our spoon? Okay, it's metal. It's a metal spoon. Do you think a metal spoon is going to sink or is it going to float? You tell me. Ooh, right to the bottom, right? Why do you think it sunk? Well, again, it's made of metal, okay? And it's certainly not shaped like a boat. So it went straight to the bottom. So our metal spoon sunk. But we're going to look at another spoon now. I have a different spoon here. This spoon is made of plastic. So even though this spoon sunk, okay, what do you think about the plastic spoon? Is the plastic spoon going to sink or is it going to float? Let's see. I'm going to leave this one here so we can see the difference. Okay, our plastic spoon is kind of in the middle here. Honestly, it should be floating. I'm not really sure why it's not, but it's kind of in the middle here. So I don't know what to call this one, sink or float. But generally, our plastic spoon should float. So hold on, guys. I'm going to get one more plastic spoon and we'll try this again. Okay, I got a better spoon. I think that one wasn't 100% made of plastic. There might be something inside of it. This one I know was definitely plastic. It's a cheap spoon from the restaurant. So for real now, let's try this out. Do you think this is going to sink or is it going to float? I'm going to say maybe sink because my other spoon sunk. So let's see. Oh, I have no room on my prediction board, so we'll just keep this one on our head. So let's see, is this cheap plastic spoon going to sink or is it going to float? I'm guessing sink because now every spoon I've tried to sunk, so let's see. Ooh, this one definitely does not sink. Look, it's floating on the top. Now this is what I really thought the last one was going to do, okay? Plastic usually floats, okay? Except for that last one, I don't think was made of 100% plastic. I think there must have been something inside of it that I can't see. And that's why it sunk. But this one is only made of plastic and it floated. So even though they're both spoons, our metal one sunk straight to the bottom and our plastic one's floating on the top. So it really does matter what material an item is made out of, okay, like plastic or metal, depending on if it sinks or floats. But like I said, also sometimes metal can float if it's the right shape. But right now, a spoon is definitely not the shape of a boat that we'd want. You wouldn't get very far. You'd go straight to the bottom like Mr. Goat. So the last two items I'm going to test. We're going to test the same thing twice, but I'm going to change something slightly about it. Okay. The first thing I'm going to test is our plastic bottle. What do you guys think? Is our plastic bottle going to sink or is it going to float? Now, right now it's empty. Okay, there's absolutely nothing in here. What do you guys think? Is it going to sink or is it going to float? I'm going to say float because all of our other plastic stuff has floated, so I'm going to say float. So let's see. Yep, our plastic bottle floats quite easily. Like I said, it's empty. It's plastic. All of our other stuff have, well, most of except for that spoon that I don't know what's going on with that, but everything else has floated. So I'm going to change something slightly about this. I'm going to fill this bottle up with water. Like I said, right now it's empty. And right now it's floating. So I'm going to pause this for a second and I'm going to fill this bottle up with water and we're going to see if it's the same. Okay, so I filled up our bottle and I'm not going to tell you my prediction because I want to see how much you guys have been paying attention. You tell me, is our full with water bottle, it's a plastic bottle, but I filled it with water, is this going to sink or is it going to float? You tell me. So I'm not going to tell you my prediction. I want you guys to figure this one out. Okay, ready? Let's see if your prediction was right. Ooh, right to the bottom. I know this part's still sticking up just because this thing happens to be bigger than the container. But if you see, it's sitting right on the bottom here, okay? It sunk. Why is that? Well, we know when it was empty plastic, it sat on the top. Think just like our barrel from the Archie and Hen story, right? When it was empty, it stayed on the top. But when it was full, it sunk straight to the bottom. This time I filled this with water, it went down. Just like our other two bottles, right? Our spray bottle, again, it's plastic. It should float if there was nothing in it, but when I put stuff in it, right to the bottom it went, okay? So, same with our nail polish, right? It was plastic and glass, but it's full of nail polish and straight to the bottom it goes. So, if it's an empty material and it's something that could float like plastic or glass, it'll stay on top, but once we fill it, it goes straight to the bottom. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning about objects that sink and objects that float. Again, you can try this at home with any object that you have that's safe to put in water. Again, please do not throw like a DS in there because it will break. But something that's safe to put in water you can try. And if you don't have a container like mine, you can use any kind of container that you have in your kitchen, like a mixing bowl, or you can use your sink with a stopper or your bathtub. And please, like I said, make sure you do this someplace that's okay to get wet. I did mine on my kitchen floor because it's tile. You could do it outside on the sidewalk or in your bathroom. Just please, like I said, don't do it in the middle of your living room with the carpet. Okay, and mommies and daddies, you could help your child out by helping them make their prediction chart. Okay, and I will see you guys tomorrow with yet another video. Bye bye.